What's up, guys? Welcome to the Hell's Night writing session number 2. Sorry that we are about 15 minutes late on the live stream. Um, Getting used to live streaming things. Sometimes these things take a little bit longer to set up than I'm used to. Just trying to get everything squared away here, and we will get going. So, over the course of the week, I wrote just a little bit and enough for us to have a setup for our script. So, what we're going to do is we're going to work on a script in real time. We're going to work on the Hell's Night anthology. We're working on the wraparound story. And we came up with some cool ideas for the outline over the past week. So, the way this is going to go today is we're going to go through, we're going to talk about real quick the outline, what the story's about, and then we're just going to dive deep into some writing. Um, Pretty stoked on that. Let me see if I can bring up my outline over here. Cool. So, bear with me real quick. Hang out as I check the streams on everywhere and make sure that we are up and running where we need to be up and running at. Chuck, I see you out there in comment land. How you doing, Chuck? So we're live on Twitch. So if you prefer to watch over on Twitch, then we are there as well. We are on YouTube, of course, and we should be streaming on X, aka Twitter. Um, pretty gnarly. Okay, cool. Let me go over here. Make sure we are okay. Yeah, tired. I feel that. That is the name of the game and how my life is going lately. Pretty tired. So anybody out there, as I'm getting a few things set up, anybody out there watch any good movies lately? Has anybody seen anything they would recommend or anything that they want to say is just absolute trash? Or anything they're looking forward to? So Chuck's talking about YouTube. He didn't upload yesterday. He did not upload today, which is a rare occurrence for him. Chuck is uh, on his grind when it comes to YouTube. It is weird when he has a day where he doesn't upload. All right, guys, I am finishing up here. Getting a few things straightened out, and then we will jump in headfirst into this screenplay. All right, so let's talk about the outline. So, a few of the things that we had went over last week is we decided that we were going to have a young couple, and we were trying to figure out, okay, well, um, how do we want them to find their way into this antique shop? And we decided that we were going to um, we were going to here's our outline, I'll bring it up here. We decided that we want them to be a young couple, so I'm thinking mid-30s, and we were toying with the idea of them furnishing their first apartment, their first house. Are they collectors or death dealers? The couple's on a budget, so we're gonna X these ideas. Um, we're gonna X this. I don't wanna say we're not gonna go with either one of those, but as of now, I think we came up with a better idea. They've decided to look at antique shops, so a lot of this is the right direction we're going, but it is not really what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do is this right here. So here is the main takeaway from this. So our our couple is actually dead. Um, the help the shopkeep helps couples get to the afterlife. They died in a car accident or in some sort of gruesome death, and the way that the script is written is they are caught out in this storm. And you'll see that. I'll read through the script. But essentially, if you know about Greek mythology, there is a guy that takes people to the afterlife. He goes by it's Charon. I think the proper way to pronounce that is Haran, or some people say Charon, or some people just say Karen, but it's actually Haran. And if you've ever looked at Greek mythology, he is the guy that once you die, you would meet him at the riverbank, and he would take you across the river Styx, and I think the river Acheron, and essentially take you to the underworld. Now, when you would die, this is, interesting because in Greek mythology, uh, your relatives, they would put coins in your mouth. So when they put coins in your mouth, this is what you pay Haran with when you meet him at the riverbank, and this is how you basically get your access from the riverbank to, to the afterlife. Now, if you didn't have coins or your family didn't supply you with the coins by putting them in your mouth when you died, then you would have to wander the banks of uh, the river Styx for 100 years before you could go to the afterlife. So, pretty interesting little mythology there. So, I think playing this story up on that would be really interesting. So, what I'm thinking that I want to do is I think that we're going to take that idea, and the script is going to start out with the couple. The couple is drawn to the antique shop, right? The couple doesn't know it, but the couple's dead. And when they get to the antique shop, if you know Greek mythology and you know this little secret we got, there'll be little hints there, right? It'll be like Haran's antiques and curiosities or something on the window of the antique shop. You'll have Haran's symbol, which is essentially a circle with like a crescent moon underneath it. And that'll just be like a logo or something that we have in there, just sort of like a nod to that story. Now, when the couple gets in there, they don't immediately meet the shopkeep, who's going to be Haran. So they wander around like we talked about. And they're sort of looking at all these weird oddities and these antiques, just picking up different things. And the whole reason they're in this antique shop is because they were walking through a city, and um, they're caught out in a torrential downpour, right? So the city's real quiet. The city's dead. You just have this monsoon that bears down on them, and Iran's antiques and curiosities is like the only place that's open. So they need a place to get warm, and they need a place to dry off. So they decide to go into this place, and that's why they're there. Now, the couple's dressed up rather nicely. You'll see it in the descriptors and in the script. But the reason they're dressed up nice is they were going out for dinner, and they end up getting mugged, and they get murdered. They don't know it, but they're dead. And they find it out later in the movie or in the script. But so they're in the antique store, and they are looking around at different things and just messing around, joking around and stuff like that. And I haven't decided whether I want them to start like sort of having a headache, and like maybe the male character just starts like messing with his head, and then maybe he realizes something's wrong because he has like a bullet hole or something in the back of his head, or a hole in his head, or something back here. Or I even thought that maybe the wife, she starts choking and like doubling over, and he's like, "Oh crap, what's going on? You okay? You okay?" Runs over to her, and then she starts like, she spits like some coins out of her mouth. Not like in a like video game style, but like she coughs up some gold coins, and it's just sort of a nod to that Greek mythology. Like, and they're like, "Okay, well, what the fuck?" She's like, "How did these get in my mouth? How did these come to be?" And this is when Haran appears in the shop, and he's just a normal guy. He doesn't look like he does in Greek mythology. He looks like the guy that we've been planning him to be, just a simple old man, maybe with a long beard, just sort of eccentric. And he starts talking to them about different things, and everything in the antique shop is sort of like either personal artifacts, or like something that was related to that person's death, right? So if somebody, like, let's say, killed themselves by hanging themselves, there would be like a noose in there. Or if somebody died by, let's say, in a car accident, maybe like the front bumper of a car would be in there, or I don't know, something, right? Just something to remind them of the time that they died. So in this instance, um, let's say they got mugged on their way to dinner. Like, what could potentially be the thing that they find in the antique shop? It could be maybe they were missing something, and then they're like, "Oh, well, there it is." Um, so that'll take some creative writing. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start. We're gonna hop right in, and we're just gonna start writing. I'm gonna show you guys what we have written so far, and we're just gonna work through it. And if you guys like it, let me know. If you have input, also let me know, because uh, we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna start writing an actual script. So, like I said in the past, we're using Writer Duet. I'm not gonna be working in notes like we did last time. So we're actually gonna be working in some screenwriting software. This software is relatively new to me, so Um, it may take just messing around with it a bit, but most of them are all the same. So let's see here. All right, let me get this script up here for you guys. All right, so again, this is just a first draft. There's going to be a whole lot of changes that take place over the course of not just writing tonight, but just as new ideas come, we're going to be changing a lot of stuff. So um, just bear with me. Let's go ahead and let me read some of this to you. I've got Photoshop and all kinds of stuff open. I'm just trying to get it off my screen, make these things a little less in my way. All right, here we go. All right, so exterior, night, rain, city street. The city is dark and eerily quiet, except for the sound of the rain, which is almost deafening. This is a major downpour that is beginning to flood the streets. Out of the darkness and through the rain, a man and a woman appear. They are rushing down a sidewalk and are trying to avoid getting soaked in the hellish downpour. They seek temporary shelter under storefront awnings, moving from one to the next. They find a suitable awning to stop and catch their breath and dry off for a few minutes. What a night for neither one of them to have an umbrella. Exterior storefront awning, city street. The man, David, is tall, skinny, and classically handsome, a narrow face with a strong jaw and dark hair. His glasses make him look sophisticated. He is wearing a nice overcoat, a wool sweater with dark chino pants, and brown leather boots. You can tell David once had nicely combed hair before the rainstorm soaked him to the bone. Now his hair is disheveled and appears black as it hangs in front of his face, dripping wet. David takes off his overcoat and attempts to shake off the water to help it dry out. David then takes off his glasses and wipes his face dry with his arm before putting his glasses back on. The woman, Sarah, attractive with long brown hair, which was once painstakingly fixed and styled for this night, now her hair hangs in one big wet clump. Sarah wears large, oversized glasses that complements her round face. She is also elegantly dressed. Sarah wears a dark sweater that is tucked into a brown suede skirt. She wears dark sheer tights and boots to match. She is a cross between a librarian and a hipster. Sarah laughs as David struggles to attempt to dry himself off. Sarah grabs her hair in one big clump and squeezes it in order to wring it out. David, I don't understand how we could have got so turned around. I feel like we parked a lot closer than this. In this storm, what the hell? David takes his key fob from his pocket and continually presses the lock unlock buttons in an attempt to locate his car. He aims the key fob in different directions. No luck. Sarah, you're honestly the worst with directions. David, I just don't get it. The roads are all pretty straight. I don't remember us even coming this far down the street. What street is this? David walks to the edge of the awning and squints his eyes to try and read a street sign through the downpour. David. Sarah, can you see that? What does it say? Sticks? Question mark. So, this is where I stopped because I didn't want to get too involved in this. Pretty simple setup. So, like I said, what you have is you have our character names and you have our character descriptors. What I do want to go back and do is I want to put their age in here because that's helpful. So we'll say tall, skinny, classically handsome. We'll put a comma here. We're gonna make these guys mid-30s. I feel like that's a good enough age to where you're old enough, know better, but still young enough to um I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but old enough to know better. You know, mature enough to where it's not like a dumb kid story. Uh, we'll just say brown face, upscale dress. We'll put mid-30s also. And this may, when we rewrite, may be taken out of the script, may not be, but it's important to have these descriptors in there. So when you do go to cast your film, you sort of know the age range you're looking for. You know, you can you can use these descriptors to sort of um help with your dialogue, right? Because there's things that somebody in their mid 30s, a certain way they would talk that maybe somebody that's, I don't know, 15 years old wouldn't talk, or somebody that's 60 years old wouldn't say certain things, and vice versa, right? So if these were teenagers, they would be using like the newer slang that kids are using nowadays and stuff like that. So since these people are around my age, mid 30s, it'll be pretty easy for me to write their dialogue because there's things that I say and I don't say, but it just all comes with the age. Um, so far, like I said, we have up until, you know, they realize they're lost. They don't know where they are. And at this point, Sarah kind of thinks it's funny. She kind of thinks, hey, like, this is typical David. Like, he's always getting us lost. He's bad with directions. But David, on the other hand, he's a little nervous here because he knows that he's not as bad with directions as this. Right? He knows he came from this way, but it's like the way has changed. So, um, my thought process behind this is they are in this temporary death state, right? So they're dead. They don't know they're dead, but they're dead. But the outside world, reality, is sort of still ongoing, right? So they're sort of in this shadow world per se, right? And the shadow world is sort of like purgatory. So they are in between the living and in between the afterlife. And what's going to get them to the afterlife is going with Haran once they go through the antique shop and he takes them to the afterlife. Now, our story isn't going to be about them getting to the afterlife, right? That's not the climax of this story. The climax of this story is them understanding they're dead and them just being like, okay, well, we have to go with them. So, through writing and discovering, we're going to figure out that do we want David to have coins, right? Now, we know Sarah may throw her coins up. She may have a coin. She may have enough to get to the afterlife, um, by paying Haran. Maybe David doesn't have enough. Maybe David has to roam the banks for 100 years, you know, and that can all be told through dialogue and that can be all told through the climax of the story. I think tonight the important part is getting Sarah and David in the antique store, right? Nailing down the introduction to Haran and once he is introduced to the story, then we can do a little bit more brainstorming on the actual climax of this story, and you know, are we gonna keep David and Sarah together, or are we gonna make it a sad story and make them part ways? So let's figure that out and let's stew on that and let's see what we come up with together. So, how does all this sound so far to anybody out there listening? Does this sound like this is the right way to take this? Um, I think that me personally, I think this is an interesting take. It's better than them just going and searching for furniture and then something weird happening in the antique shop. I think a lot of stories are pulled not just from history, but from like Greek and like Greek mythology, especially. There's a lot of modern day stories that you know are pulled from those old tales. So here we go. So let's go ahead and I don't know if I want this to actually be called the road to be called Styx because that's really too much like a nod to too much of a nod to the tale, right? So I think what we're gonna do is I think we need to change that, and I think the other road is called Acheron, or the other river is called Acheron. Let me look it up. Let me see. Acheron, Ron. Give me just a second, guys. I want to make sure I'm telling you correct here. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Okay, so it's Acheron. Let's see if we can get the pronunciation for that. Acheron. It's Acheron, not Acheron. Acheron. So let's change this to that because that is not as noticeable. Because when people hear sticks, um, Acheron, because Acheron Avenue could sound like an actual big city street. So, yeah, so we'll do Acheron. I think that makes sense to me. So, and if we want to change it later, we'll change it later. But as for now, that's what we're gonna go with. So, Acheron Avenue. So he says, Sarah, can you see that? Because he's trying to squint through the rain. What does it say? Acheron Avenue. We want to have a beat here. So he's struggling to read. Acheron Avenue. So the dot 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 is just a beat. You can put those in parentheses and have beats like that. Walks to the edge, squints his eyes, tries to read a street sign through the downpour. Sarah, can you see that? What does it say? Acheron Avenue. All right, so okay, so maybe Sarah doesn't see anything at all. Um, maybe she can't see it. And let's put a parenthetical here. Not that. She's. Let's put up here squinting her eyes. Sarah, I can't see it. And then we want David points. Okay, so here, maybe this is hints to later on that hinting to David is a little more receptive to seeing what's going on. And it may be because he doesn't have his tokens for the afterlife, or maybe vice versa. Maybe he has his tokens, right? And maybe that's why he can see. And maybe Sarah doesn't have her tokens and she has to stay in purgatory. It's a little bit to think about here. Or maybe that could be Sarah that can see it here. Does anybody have a vote? Should David make it to the afterlife or should Sarah make it to the afterlife? We can go either way. Like, that doesn't matter right now to me. We just have to gear the rest of the story to, who's going to actually make it, because that's going to dictate a lot of the dialogue. That's going to dictate how the story plays out. So I'll give you guys a minute to vote. If anybody has an idea, or, has a thought, then let me know. All right, so when you write, especially your first draft, it's sort of just vomiting on the page. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna go, and I want you guys to understand, especially if you're not familiar with screenwriting or the process. I want you guys to just understand that what we write isn't final. The dialogue's not final. The grammatical and spelling errors aren't final. Neither are the actions, right? We're just getting the idea out there, and then when we go back and we do a second draft, we refine things. Then when we do our final draft, that's when you button everything up. So I have I'm fortunate in this way because I not only am I writing it, I am also going to be shooting it. So, you know. All right, surely you're not that blind. How can you not see that? So this is what we're going to do here. Okay, here we go. How can you not see that? If he becomes noticeably frustrated and he grabs. Can you guys hear that music? That background music? I can't hear it in my headphones. I just want to make sure it's not too loud. David becomes noticeably frustrated and grabs. Good, at least that music isn't too freaking loud. Let's see. That's fine. Let's change it to. Oh, okay. It's just playing out of my speakers for whatever reason, and not through software. Is what it is. Music sucks, anyways. All right, so David becomes noticeably frustrated. Uh, grabs Sarah and edges her closer to him and points again. Right there, he says. Um, so he says this sternly. He's getting pissed off a little bit because he's a little bit confused. Is he going crazy, or is he, um, it's, or can she just not freaking see it? So he's trying to figure that out. And we know that she just can't see it. So, um, let's see. Noticeably frustrated, grabs Sarah and edges her closer to him and points again. Let's see here. So now we need an action. So Sarah, she's not being very well receptive to this, right? So she's gonna be like, they're not gonna fight because he's not being mean. He's just being very adamant, right, about it. So it's like, um, uh, she says, "I told you I couldn't see it." Stop. Okay, so now at this point, we need to have a catalyst that's going to set them off towards the antique shop, right? So, um, is it because maybe Sarah starts getting cold and David notices, and then he's looking around and he's like, sees the lights on at the antique shop, and he's like, surely you could see those lights right there. And she's like, those I can see. He's like, I think we should make a run for it, right? Because they're still in the rain, the downpour's still happening. So I think maybe we should make a run for it. So maybe they take off, sort of like holding hands and sort of like dodging the raindrops, trying to get there. And you know, that's how they wind up there. Okay, so here we go. So Sarah crosses her arms and begins shivering. Uh, Sarah crosses her arms and begins shivering. She is drenched from the rain. All right, so here we want David to start being a little more sympathetic. So David looks over at Sarah and holds out his coat. His coat is wet though, so this is kind of a funny moment. David looks over at Sarah and holds out his overcoat to her. I think maybe at some point she should have taken off her because she has a wool sweater on. So I think as she was like grabbing her hair and like wringing her hair out, maybe she took off her wool sweater. She has like a tank top underneath, and maybe that's why she's cold and why she's shivering. So because this isn't necessarily in the summer, this could be one of those fall kind of rainy type nights. So let me see. Let's go back up here. Then, then if I can type here, then takes off her sweater, to help dry off, and is left with the tank top on. Like I said, we'll get in and we'll make some really like deep edits on some of these descriptors and stuff as time goes. David looks over at Sarah and holds out his overcoat to her. Holds out his wet overcoat to her. She looks back at David. Not David. David. Sarah looks back at David and let's say she chuckles. She definitely kind of like gives him a little bit of like pokes fun at him a little bit of attitude. She's kind of like, that's wet. What am I gonna do with that? So looks at David and okay, now I can hear this music. I'm gonna turn that crap down. Sarah looks at David and then they both look at the coat. Coat as it's dripping. She says, this needs to have a so stop it. Told you I couldn't see it, so stop. Sarah crosses her arms and begins shivering. She is drenched from the rain. David looks over at Sarah and holds out his wet overcoat to her. Sarah looks back at David, and then they both look down at the overcoat as it's dripping. He's kind of handing it like this in one hand. And it's just got like water still dripping off of it. David needs to say something here. He says, that counts, right? You can say something snarky like, my knight in shining armor. So far, this doesn't seem very horror. This seems like the shadow world is a fun place to hang out with your significant other, but it's gonna get a little bit hard for these guys very soon. So I want to have the setup, because when you're writing, one of the many mistakes that you can make, and I've made, is you want to make sure that your characters um, have personality, right? You want people to care about them, and it's hard to do that in a short film. Hell, it's hard to do that in any long form piece of writing. Sometimes you'll watch a feature film, right, and you just do not care about the characters, and that's the worst, especially in a horror movie, because if the stakes aren't high enough, or if the characters are unlikable, you're just like, God, can this movie hurry up and get over with? And it's like, I didn't like any of the characters. They were all obnoxious and annoying, you know, and there's almost nothing worse than that in the movie. So you want to have enough meat there to make sure that people can either latch on to the characters' personalities, or enough meat there where people sort of start to like those characters, right? And like I said, it's hard to do in a short film, especially something that max runtime for this wraparound story is going to be like 20 minutes. So you got to think, how can we make it to where people are really identifying with these two characters, right? So this is really, honestly, like, this could be an interchange between, or a conversation between me and my wife, or, just a conversation that, you hear on the street every day, right? You have the guy that is kind of like not the most suave guy in the world, right? With like grabbing her and being like, look, don't you see that right there? And she's like, I told you already one time, I didn't see it, and then he's like, okay, then. And then he's like, okay, well, how can I make up? Even though it makes 0 sense for me to hand her a wet coat, right? It's the thought that counts, right? And then she's just kind of like, yeah, my knight in shining armor, right? And then you could even put that in there. Or you put, yeah, a knight in shining armor. And then he's like, David needs to say something like, okay, I'm gonna get you out of this rain. I gotta figure this out. We can't stay here. He says, maybe you could say something goofy, right? So knight in shining armor, you can play off that and be like, like, all right, my lady, or something like that, right? Like, because again, you want him to be likable, right? You want him to be not just like stiff. You want to show his different personality, right? Traits. So maybe he has a joking and goofy personality. So maybe he's like, maybe he, does an impersonation of like an old, like medieval accent, right? Maybe a Scottish accent or something like that, where, he's like, so we could say, do that. Like I said, this is the first draft, so. I might type it in all caps. He says, I shall find a way to. All right, my lady, I shall find a way for us to venture forth. And I want to make sure that I put like a parenthetical here that it's like a forced, that it's a forced accent, right? So forced medieval accent. All right, so this kind of like lightens the mood, you know. All right, so Sarah kind of giggles. Let me see. Sarah kind of giggles and not giggles. That's too schoolgirl. Chuckles. Chuckle. Can spell that right. Sarah chuckles and continues to mess with her wet hair. She ties it up. This is what she's going to be doing in the background while he's looking around. David continues to squint and look through the rain for any I want to say any sign of life. So this is where he sees it. So, for any sign of life, he squints and scans from side to side. I wanted to have a nickname or just poke more fun here. I'm just I'm just kidding. I see it. Calm down. Initially, my initial thought is cowboy, but if he was talking in a medieval accent, what could we put there? We could put cowboy, so we could go this way with it. So what's this? I'm just kidding. I see it. Calm down, cowboy. Serious? David stands back up. As he leaned against the wall like this, or just like leaned back, defeated because he's like, oh my gosh, like, I've already got us lost. We're both soaked. I keep seeing these things, and she's not seeing them. David, aggravated, throws his arms up in frustration. You've got to be kidding me. David steps back, leans against the wall, defeated. I'm just kidding. I see it. Calm down, cowboy. There's no question mark there. Calm down, dude stands back up. Excitement. David stands back up. I don't see an excitement. Stands back up in excitement. David. Serious? So you think he's gonna say, are you serious? Do you see it? But he says, are you serious? That wasn't even a cowboy accent. Because he's like, she says, calm down, cowboy. He's like, are you serious? Because the last thing he said up here was, "Milady." Are you serious? That wasn't even a cowboy accent. King David. Are you serious? That wasn't even a cowboy accent. Is cowboy accent a thing? Serious, stands back up straight. Are you serious? That wasn't even a cowboy accent. Yeah, it looks far away. What do you think it is? Okay, so we'll get to this dialogue in a minute. Cowboys, so she says, cowboys, knights. What's the difference? How much time do you have? David says Cowboys Knights was 0. Horses and Dragons, actually. True. Unless you're talking about real life, then it would be like horses and the plague. Horses and Dragons, actually. So David's wanting to mess around now that he realizes she can see the same thing he can see. So now it's sort of like lightened his mood a little bit. So Horses and Dragons, actually. Sarah says, okay then. Which one are we gonna ride? Get us over to that. All right, so this is where you're starting to sort of either like David's personality or not. Whether you're emotionally getting attached to the characters through the dialogue exchange, right? I could honestly hear this conversation play out with me and my wife, and I think that is important when you write. Like, does the conversation flow? Is it kind of goofy? Yes. But because you're writing a horror movie doesn't mean you can't have some jokes, some comedy, or just some goofy content, right? Not everything has to be overly dramatic. So I think that's always important to remember. You know, write in your voice and write what you know, right? Don't try to like talk with bigger words if you don't speak that way. Don't I don't know, don't talk about things that you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, doing research for movies is one thing, but like just through casual dialogue, you don't have to like go above and beyond and write in your own voice. Now, there are some things that you would probably not say in real life that you have to put in a script to contextualize situations. So right here where he says horses and dragons, actually, so I want to make sure I put in here matter of factly in a parenthetical right here. Okay, and then she says, okay then, which one are we gonna ride to get us over there? I don't want to say to that light because that is too much to get us over there, so we can warm up and ask for directions, so we can finally warm up, get dry, and warm up and get dry. We'll worry about directions later. Finally warm up and get dry. David sticks his arm out. David hooks his arm out. Okay, so now we're 5 pages in. So the rule of screenplays is normally 1 page is about a minute of screen time. So this is about 5 minutes into the film. So in the next 5 to 7, maybe 5 to 8 pages, we need to get them in the antique shop. That's where they're headed. And we need to introduce them to Haran, the antique shop owner, and we need to get the first story introduced. So, um, spelling that word. What the heck? What the heck? I'll get it figured out. There we go. That's a great medieval accent. So she says that knowing that he's now trying to do a cowboy accent. Oh, that is a great medieval accent. And parenthetical here. Sarcastically. David just looks at her. Just looks at her. So he knows she's toying with him. So the look he can give her is David. David just looks over at Sarah. All right, so right here, she ties her sweater around her waist. David just looks over at Sarah and grins. David begins to put on his wet overcoat. So as he's saying this next line, he's putting on his overcoat. He's like, all right, so when I say go, we're going to have to make a run for it, okay? And she's like, all right. And she's tying her sweater around her waist. She says, okay. And so right here, she can either say, are you going to give me a countdown or are we just going to go? And he's like, or she could say, okay, well, if you run through the rain, are you going to get more wet than if you just walk? That's a conversation that I've always wondered about myself. So if it's raining and you're running through the rain and rain's hitting you at a higher velocity because your speed is faster, are you getting more wet than if you would have just walked? Are you allowing more rain to hit you because you're moving faster through space than if you would have walked? Or are you getting rained on more because you're walking slower and allowing more material to hit you? You have thoughts? Put them in the chat. Throw them in the comments if you're watching this in the replay. It's interesting. So we're going to go on this stream for about 15 more minutes and see what we can get. I at least want to get these guys to the front door of the antique shop. So after that, then we're going to call it quits for the night. And we're definitely going to pick up next Friday writing on this. I may write throughout the week. Or I may just pick up, that way you guys can see the full steps, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, but we're definitely going to have, get these guys to the antique shop. So, and then that'll essentially be really, honestly, half of this wraparound story, which I'm pretty stoked on that. So granted, like I said, we'll go back and we'll do, more drafts, but this is our word vomit. This is essentially what's getting us there. And then we'll sort of fill out these characters more and more. So let me show you guys this real quick, see if I can find it. Give me just a minute to bring this up here. So with my love for researching and just giving you guys the overall look, and the overall tone of, I don't know, I want you guys to be able to visualize what I'm visualizing when I'm writing this. So I fed in my character descriptors to Midjourney, and I want you guys to just sort of visualize. I'm gonna have to feed back. Give me just a minute. Let me find David's descriptor again, right here. I'm going to feed this directly into Midjourney. And we're going to see what Midjourney produces us for an image. See if it's close to what I was thinking. All right, so for Sarah, let me bring up basically what I was thinking for this character. Show you guys what Midjourney's giving me. Let me see here. Hang on, I'm looking for the image. Okay, I found it. So for our Sarah character, so sort of this look here. So friendly, looks mature, right? Sweater. This was sort of like a brown overcoat, but so this look here, right? Sort of dressed up. So obviously it didn't give me the full prompt to where it was like having wet hair and stuff, but this is essentially what I'll put in my character Bible as one of the pictures because this is sort of the visualization there. Um, and then let's see what it came up with for us. For okay, so I kind of like this. And I'll just save all of these and show you guys the 4 variations that it came up with. And we'll just bring it up. And really honestly, these style actors shouldn't be too hard to find, you know? They have a very common look. So right here, so here's the 4 prompts it gave me when I fed in info to Midjourney. So this top left, that guy looks like a little bit older gentleman. He looks like he'd probably be in his 40s. So he looks a little too old for the character, right? I kind of like this dude on the top right. Or this guy on the bottom. This guy on the left, like these 3. So the top right, bottom right, lower left. Lower left guy seems maybe a little young. He seems like he'd probably be in his early 20s, maybe mid 20s. The 2 guys on the right, top right, bottom right, they seem like they'd be probably in their mid 30s, about the right age. So maybe a pea coat is the overcoat that he's wearing, and you know, handsome dude. It would be fun to show his goofy side, especially when you have a guy trying to look as cool as the guy in the top right. So just visualize a guy that looks like one of these, right? Him, and then you have Sarah, the female that I showed you, as we're writing this, because it'll help when you kind of visualize these characters like I'm visualizing them. Or if you had characters in your mind, just keep visualizing what you see in your mind. It's like when you read a book, you sort of visualize the characters as you read. So that's sort of how this works as well. All right, so let me bring the script back up and let's get these guys in a warm place before we stop for the night. All right, so here we are. Okay, so Sarah ties her sweater around her waist and she says, okay. And she says, wait. Okay, wait. And David says, what? This is where she's inquisitive about, do you get more wet if you run or if you were to walk? The answer is obviously you're going to get the same amount of wetness. Not cut to. Get that out of there. just a thing of me learning this software, guys. I'll get there. Don't want this in there. David looks at Sarah in disbelief. Says I never really thought about it. Good question. I think so. He says I never really thought about it. It's a good question, and I think, and then he just bolts. He's gone. He just takes off running. Towards the light. So David doesn't finish his sentence, and he takes off running towards the light. Wow, how many H's and S's did I put in here? Sentence, and he takes off running towards the light. So here she can be like, although the city is dark, quiet, and Although the city's dark, quiet, and things are not quite what they seem, they make the most of it. All right, so this is where I hear you, Chuck. Sneaks up on us. Sneaks up on us. So this is where I think I'm gonna stop for the night because we've been streaming for an hour and 35 minutes. I'm gonna go spend some time with the family before work this weekend and probably watch some movies. So because I really want to stew on what I have thus far. Like I said, it's a first draft. Nothing is set in stone. Um, but I think it is good character development. So what we have here is we have 6 minutes of screen time, 6 or really 5, starting on the 6th page here. And this is really a setup to make, like I said, you guys get the personality of the characters and sort of have some relatability. So I'm gonna reread through this, not now, not on camera, but I'm gonna reread through this, and I'm gonna let this stew in my brain and have some more thoughts. Because now that I know the direction we're going, now that I know who these characters are a little bit, you have Sarah, who's sarcastic, David, who's playful and goofy, and then, like I said, I got to figure out how we're going to show them that they're dead, you know, because they seem lighthearted and goofy now. So we're raising them up. They're having a good time, just to slam them down into the ground. And, surprise, you're dead. And then figure out what we're going to do with them from there. Because only one of them is crossing that river with Haran. So, maybe I need to go with the Chekhov's gun method, right? Like I've talked about. And if I'm gonna have David fill his head when he gets in the shop, maybe he's already realized he has something going on the back of his head. And he's like, my head is killing me, maybe up here on page 1 or 2. And then when they get in the shop and there's light, he can still like, when he gets in there, he could be like holding his head, and Sarah could be like, well, let me look at your head. Let me see what's wrong. And then, she looks and she's like, you've got a hole back there. Like, what happened? You've got a hole. And this is if we go with them getting mugged and executed, maybe Sarah had on a necklace and somebody wanted to snag her necklace. So maybe she can even make a reference to I dropped my necklace. I must have dropped it when we were running over here. And he's like, hey, we'll go back and find it. We'll find it in the morning when it's light, I promise. She's like, well, my grandmother gave me that necklace. And then we'll flash back later in the film and we'll actually show where they get mugged. And whoever mugs them after they kill them rips the necklace off her dead body, right? And that's why she doesn't have the necklace and she doesn't know that it was taken. And then, he starts filling the hole, and that brings that flashback back. Like, okay, like something happened. What happened to us? And this is where, Haran comes out, and he's like, well, let's talk. And basically, I am the transporter of the dead, and I'll take your fare now. I don't know. There's a way they've got to find that out. So that is my big thought process over the next couple days. So, you know, interested to hear your thoughts as well. You guys can always come back if you have thoughts and drop them down on the comment section of the replay of what you would like to see or how you'd like to see this go. This is just a living video, a living document. Like I said, feel engaged to throw your ideas out there or not. But right now we're at the doorstep of Haran's antiques and curiosities, and they're about to go inside. And then this is where things start kind of twisting, right? Twisting, and the story starts coming alive. And you're like, okay, well, this isn't a love story. This isn't a drama story. This is horror story. And with stories like this, with anthologies, the stories aren't super in depth, right? They're a lot of times they're surface level because they're short films, right? There's only so much you can tell. So if you want to know some good anthologies, go to Shudder, watch the new episodes of Creepshow, or go watch the old Creepshow, Creepshow 1, Creepshow 2. The newer one still keeps with that same old school cheese. Go watch John Carpenter's Body Bags. Go watch, what's another good one? You could go watch the Trick or Treat movie. That's actually just a feature-length film, and it weaves in 3 different stories. It doesn't really have like a presenter like we have for this. Go watch some Tales from the Crypt. Go watch some Twilight Zone, some Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, Tales from the Crypt doesn't really interweave their stories so much, but it does have a presenter that presents 3 different stories. And that's probably, I don't want to say that's the closest to what we're creating. Really, the closest what we're creating is going to be, I don't know. They all kind of have similarities and some differences as well. But I would say go check those out. Go check out GDT, Guillermo del Toro, Netflix's special, Cabinet of Curiosities. Same thing. He's a presenter. He's going through this curiosity cabinet, and as he does, he's basically telling stories, which is a gnarly idea. I wish it could have been done a little bit better, presented a little bit better, because his curiosity cabinet is sort of like this moving machine of stuff. I wish he would have really just been like in his house, Bleak House, and pulling things out of his personal collection and kind of telling stories and then presenting stories that way. Because if you don't know about GDT, look up Bleak House, BLEAK House on YouTube, and you'll see like his like studio with all of his movie memorabilia in it and other like famous movie memorabilia, and it's absolutely insane. I've always told myself if I ever came into that type of money, that's exactly what I would structure my studio like, exactly what a portion of my house would look like. So one last piece of advice: if you want to know anything about writing, check this out. Here's a good piece of advice. Writing is all about, it may be hard to read because I just doodled it down, intention and obstacle, right? Where's our character's intention and what is their obstacle? So anytime you're writing, think about that, right? The hero's journey, right? So you have not just your beginning, middle, and end. You have a character, they want something gets in the way of them getting what they want, and then they either overcome it or they don't, right? And that is your climax of your story. It's literally that simple. So our characters, what do they want? Right now, they want a place to get warm and dry off. What is the obstacle they face, right? They face the obstacle twofold. Nothing is as it seems, right? Nothing is as it seems, and then they find out they're dead. That's their obstacle. How do they overcome it? That's for us to figure out through our writing. Do they overcome it by one of them riding to the afterlife and one of them staying in purgatory, roaming the banks for 100 years because David does not have coins? Um, I don't know. It's for us to figure out. So it's gonna be an interesting week stewing on all this and coming back and writing on it. And then I would say we should probably have a solid first draft within the next 2 weeks. We'll probably button it up by the end of September. Come October, we'll probably start writing our first story for this anthology, like our first one of 3 stories, right? So this is technically the first story. So we're telling 3 stories and then 1 wraparound story that introduces the other 3. So this is the wraparound story. If you haven't caught on yet, that's what this is. It's going to introduce the other 3. So I hope you guys are enjoying these live streams. Chuck, if you're still out there, give me a shout out. Let me know if video quality looks better tonight than it has been, because I took your advice. I lit the studio a little brighter this week. And I'm thinking it looks a little better. Maybe not as pixelated. So good. Chuck, appreciate you coming out. Wynn, appreciate you coming out. Anybody else out there watching, appreciate you guys hanging out. And that's it. That's it for this live stream. Like I said, I'm going to try to write throughout the week so we have at least maybe even the entire first draft done. I'll do my best. So as always, guys, stay rad, just go shoot, and I'll see you tomorrow. If you're watching the 100 series, if you're only watching my live streams, I will see you next week. So again, appreciate all you guys. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these live streams. Chuck, have a good weekend. I will see you guys later.